absolutely. So from Qumran, is it safe to say that there wasn't a single fixed text or a closed canon prior to the time of Christ?
Yeah, I think this is what the scrolls. One of the things the scrolls really show to us is, growing up as a Calvinist, when if we ever got into discussions with Catholics about the canon of the Bible, our claim was always, "Oh, we have the Old Testament of Jesus, or the canon of Jesus," and if we had to defend that with evidence, we would go to a certain passage from Josephus where he talks about the 22 books that were accepted by all Jews, and they didn't accept anything beyond that. In hindsight, that was just Josephus sharing his Pharisaic perspective, because he was part of the Pharisees, and the Pharisees had certain notions of what was biblical and what wasn't, but other Jewish groups differed. So the Sadducees, as we know from the pages of the Gospels themselves, the Sadducees only accepted the books of Moses. They had a very small Bible, and the Samaritans likewise did the same. But then when we look at the library of these Essene monks at Qumran, the Dead Sea Scrolls, they have a lot of stuff in there. They have some wild stuff, like First Enoch, or really the books that make up what we know of as First Enoch, and they've got the Book of Jubilees in there. And these are books that claim to be scriptural revelation, and they have many, many copies of them. They got more copies of the Book of Jubilees than almost any book of the Bible. So they highly regarded this. We would regard it as an apocryphal book, although the Ethiopic Orthodox do include it in their Old Testament to this day. But they had a lot of different works in there. They had 5 copies of Tobit, and that is really cool, because before the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls, we knew, or we had strong suspicions, that Tobit had been written either in Hebrew or in Aramaic, but we had no manuscript evidence of it. We just had the Septuagint translation, and then translations in other languages as well. But here in the Dead Sea Scrolls, we have 5 copies of Tobit. 3 or 4 of them were in Aramaic, 1 or 2 were in Hebrew. There's a little bit of debate where there's 6 copies, or was it just 5 copies, but consensus right now, 5 copies of Tobit. Some large pieces of text, some substantial parts of the book, preserved in the original language. So it now looks like Tobit was probably written in Aramaic, and then also translated into classical Hebrew, biblical Hebrew. And they had a lot of affection for this book because they had more copies of Tobit than, say, Proverbs or Ruth or Ezra and Nehemiah, of which there's almost nothing. And there's certainly Esther is not in the Dead Sea Scrolls anywhere. So a significant number of copies of Tobit shows that they had esteem for this. And I argue in my book, Jesus and the Dead Sea Scrolls, that they got some of their theology of marriage from Tobit, because there's certain parts of the Dead Sea Scrolls where they express a very high, almost Catholic view of the sanctity of marriage. And a lot of scholars, Protestant Jewish scholars, like, where is this coming from? But I think this is because since they're not Catholics, they have never really read much of Tobit, and don't see the links and the comparisons there. So I think that's quite significant. I think you can make a strong argument that they were a Jewish group that considered Tobit to be God's word.